Hi, my name's Kellum. I am an Indigenous brother boy. Well, I'm a brother boy. I was originally from Melbourne and now I'm in a remote community in Wadeye. Okay, so the start of my life, I guess 35 years ago, my mother is Indigenous. She is from the stolen generation. I was, I guess you could say, removed from her by my father, who's not Indigenous, and taken to Melbourne to live there. I grew up in Melbourne with my auntie and uncle, who I call my mum and dad, and their 3 daughters, who have always been the most supportive family. I can't speak highly enough of them. And yeah, they're my mum and dad. But I also had a knowing or a longing to search for my mum. So I guess for a lot of years I was very angry and got into the gay scene, and I identified as a gay female. So I got into the gay scene in Melbourne and lots of parties and drugs and alcohol and things like that. But I guess I always knew deep down that I was different, but I just couldn't quite put my finger on what it was. I guess I was pretty naive. I didn't even know what transgender was, really. When I was about, I guess for a good 10, 20 years, I used to try and search for my mum. All I knew was her first name and what I thought was her surname. And there was dead ends everywhere and I couldn't find anything, but I always knew there was something, so I just kept trying and trying and trying, and then eventually I ended up finding her. I found her in Sydney, in Newcastle, there, and I went and met her with my sister and my partner at the time, and we went and met her, and it was just amazing to finally see someone that I look like, or I remember we had the same hands and things like that. But unfortunately, I only got to spend that day with her. So I only got to spend that day with her, and then came back, and it was all a bit overwhelming, you know, when you're searching for someone for a long time and then you find them. I guess you have high hopes of who they are and they're going to be, you know, this and that and all that. But she was a beautiful woman, but she had a very hard, tough life, and she was a survivor. So, which is where I probably get it from, I would say. So I met her last year, or 2 years ago now, went to Sydney and met her, and then I moved to a community up here in Wadeye to work up here, and I got a phone call up here maybe 6 months ago, a bit more now, saying that she'd passed away. So I think maybe I was only meant to meet her once, I'm not sure, but I guess the desire and the drive to be in community and to learn about my culture, which I never got the chance to, and she never got the chance to. So I'm up here, I guess, on a self-journey, self-mission to learn about myself and finally have the strength to transition and be proud of my heritage, I guess. Roughly about 6 months ago now, I think, I was speaking to my partner there and we were having conversations, and we just had a conversation, and she asked me, she said, if you could be a male, would you be? And I said, yeah, like within a heartbeat. That's what I've always wanted. She asked me what was stopping me. And at this point in my life, there was nothing stopping me. There was nothing stopping me, no relationships or work or anything like that. I was in the right place to do it in the right time, I guess, and I acknowledged it. And yeah, we decided that night that I was going to start my journey to transition from female to male. So after that, I live in Wadeye, which is a remote Indigenous community, which is about 500 kilometres southwest of Darwin. It's landlocked for 6 months of the year, so we can't get out. You can fly out, but that's about it. So we're just coming into wet season now, so we'll be landlocked soon. So I basically, the reason I came here was to learn about Indigenous culture. So I decided to approach the elders in town out of respect for them. So I approached an elder here, and I sat down there with him, and I was really worried and concerned, oh, how's this going to go? You know, this is a 70-plus-year-old elder here. Yeah, and I just didn't even know where to start. So it finally came about, and I said, I've always felt male, and I want to start turning in, you know, transitioning into a male. And I kind of sat there for a minute, and I watched him, you know, and he's thinking about it, and then a second later he said, I know, and he slapped me on the knee and he said, you got boy spirit. And that was probably, I got tingles all over my body. I couldn't believe a 70-year-old Indigenous elder in this town that probably has never been into the city or been around, you know, anything like that before, just was so accepting of me and who I was. And yeah, and he basically said to me that that this town, that he accepts me and this town will too. So that night, I believe, I'm not sure what happened that night, but the next day I woke up and I went to my job at the swimming pool, and instead of the kids asking me, Kel, you boy or girl? This time they were telling me, you boy, eh? Telling me that I was a boy. So my journey ahead, I guess, I can't say what's going to happen. I'm very excited about it, very positive about it. I'm finally happy that I can be the person that I always am inside. So what will happen now is that I basically, because I'm in a remote community, it's hard for me to get hormones and stuff sent out here. So I have Skype interviews with my psychologist in Melbourne, and doctor's appointments and things like that. I basically fly back and forth to Melbourne because there's not a lot of help up here in Darwin. So I fly back and forth, and hopefully at Christmas time it'll be 6 months on testosterone. So generally you've got to be on testosterone for 6 months before they'll even contemplate any top surgery. So hopefully within the first few months of next year I'll be flying to Melbourne to book in and have my top surgery. I'll stay there for about 2 weeks and then come back up here and recover, and yeah, and then from then on I'll be able to grow a beard and pass as a man, I guess. Yeah.